Hello everyone and welcome back to Experience Kills. Today I am your host Ben and I'm bringing you a game I want to talk about with my co-host with me here, Cameron, but I think we're going to go with call signs. He's going to be Easy Rider and I'm going to be Free Flow. How's that?
Easy Rider does accurately describe me when I was 18 to 19 years old working in a bar.
Okay, I don't want any more details than that, but thank you for the horrifying image that you've now conjured.
I'll send you photos later.
Oh god, and the reason we're going with call signs instead of names is because I've been playing an absolute buttload of Ace Combat 7 and it is glorious, and now I wish I am that pilot, because when I was growing up, between the ages of about 10 and sort of 12, 13, I really wanted to be a naval aviator. So, you know, the kind of guys launching off of ships and carriers and Harrier jump jets and stuff like that. I was into planes, let's put it that way. I was mad into planes. Like, I had pictures on my walls, I had books on them, I was a complete military hardware nerd. And yeah, this is like my dream come true. This game is the most glorious planes you will ever see. They are so beautiful now that Ace Combat has come to the Unreal Engine properly, and the visuals in this game are just amazing. Have you had a chance to look at some videos, some screenshots, Cameron, to get an idea?
You know, I haven't played an Ace Combat game since maybe 2006, so I'm definitely behind the generations when it comes to it. But the videos I have seen they've been tight. The graphics have, like you said, absolutely stunning. The last kind of fighter jet game I played was maybe Hawks, Tom Clancy's one, and I did play a bit of Armor as well, and the graphics you get on those can be quite good, but compared to what I've seen, it does not compare. No comparison.
It is beautiful. I mean, and it's not just the quality of the models on the planes, but the ground textures, the vehicle textures, buildings, and then really impressively is the lighting effects, the way the sun shines through the clouds, the way the sky darkens when you get higher in altitude, the weather effects that come from sort of the clouds when they're raining, or we're just flying through clouds, because clouds are obviously, you know, collections of water droplets. So you go through there and then your windshield on the cockpit gets covered in the water and the spray, and it kind of then trickles off as you're going at such high velocities. It all comes together in a beautiful way, and I like to play the Ace Combat games predominantly in cockpit for maximum immersion.
So you've got those,
I am indeed. So you've got the controls all around you as well, and you're using the right stick to look around the cockpit to track the enemy fighters as they sort of slam past you at 4Gs in the opposite direction and things like that, and it's super cool. It feels great.
I'm absolutely awful at first-person fighter jet games. I don't know why, but it's the only time I ever get dizzy. Roller coaster's fine, put me in a high-speed car going around corners, but like me in a fighter jet, I don't know what it is. I'm not feeling any G's. I'm on my sofa in my underwear most of the time, so as soon as I'm spinning around like Anakin Skywalker style, I'm just like...
Oh, so that like gives you that you actually get like motion sickness from it?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I saw. It's one of the thing. I've seen that they're actually doing a little VR release as well for the PS4.
Yes. Yes.
You can do that one. I am not touching that one because this podcast, a review would. My microphone would be covered in chunks, essentially.
I understand.
What we're doing.
Don't do that to yourself. It's not worth it, man. It's not.
I don't need it.
Easy Rider, man. You've got to be chill. That's like your call sign. You can't be doing that. Can't be blowing chunks, bro.
I won't let you down, Goose. Should I say Free Flow?
But basically, you mentioned it. You touched on the VR support on the PS4. I'm playing this on Xbox One, predominantly on X, and I've played it on S as well. So let's talk a little bit about the hardware. It's disappointing that it isn't X enhanced. So on X, you know, all that computing power that you have in the most powerful console, it is only running at 1080p with an unlocked frame rate up to 60 frames, which is a bit disappointing. But to be honest, even then, you know, it's on my big 4K TV, it still looks stunning. I'm not looking at it going, ooh, fuzzy. However, when I play it on my S, it is noticeably inferior. The frame rate is considerably lower, and the resolution is much fuzzier on the sort of edges of the planes and in the environment as well. And that's at the bottom end of the performance spectrum, the S, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah,
it is a bit.
Yeah. You'd expect, you know, does it at least run at 60 frames per second? Or
on S?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't run at 60, no. It's unlocked, but it's inconsistent. Yeah, it sort of floats at the 40 to 50 area, but it doesn't ever really reach 60 from the reports I've read. And you can notice it in gameplay, because when you're playing it on the X, it feels incredibly smooth, incredibly responsive. Everything looks great, and like I said, at that 1080, the Pro's the same. It gets up to 1080 as well at 60 on the PlayStation. But what I have heard though is that the game is out on PC, and if you've got a really good rig that can take advantage of it, it's going to look and play unbelievably well on a really high-end PC.
If that was at 4K, you might actually swing me in a little bit more.
I don't know for certain. I haven't looked into the actual the specifications and the abilities of it and what it can hit on PC, but I suspect it'll be high. Yeah, it'll probably be over 1080.
Okay, that's awesome, man. And you say it's on the Unreal Engine nowadays?
Yes, it is indeed, and you can tell. I mean, beyond the moment-to-moment fighter gameplay, which is absolutely amazing, there are also some very attractive, well-rendered cutscenes which link the story together. And in typical Ace Combat fashion, these are over-the-top, bit strange, very Japanese kind of cutscenes which don't usually feature your character, which is a guy by the name of Trigger. That's his call sign. They don't feature him that much, but it's kind of like telling the story around the war, the conflict that you find yourself in as Trigger, from other characters' perspectives, to give you sort of framing devices. Yeah.
Okay, just a quick. Is it actually kind of based in a certain time period on Earth?
It's not set on our world. No, it's an alternative reality.
Right.
So you have different nations like Eurasia and Osia and stuff like that, which they don't use the names, but they often fall into sort of recognizable archetypes. So you can look at some of them and go, oh, that's like the Americans, and that's like the Russians, and that's like the sort of European groups and stuff like that.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is, of course, that most of the military hardware is real-world planes. So it's real-world planes with some sort of near-future tech that's sometimes used on them, and then set in this ongoing kind of wider conflict in this not quite real world. But it's grounded enough that it feels very believable and compelling. I really like the characters. I really like the way the story is told. Obviously, when you're actually in the cockpit dogfighting and stuff, you get a lot of story and narrative and character development just through radio messages and banter over the squad net and stuff like that. And that's actually really, really well done as well. The dialogue it's a bit cheesy. Do you know what it reminds me of, Cameron? It reminds me of the Metal Gear games. It's got that kind of, this is really Japanese. This is like Japanese sort of take on what they think dogfighting sort of fighter races would be like in the West.
So so it's what was I going to allude it to? So it's like a overly dramatic Japanese anime mixed with Top Gun.
Yes, and it's so much fun for it. Like, seriously good time.
So you're writing checks your body can't cash. Oh!
There's no real Japanese characters, so there's none of that, that anime thing where they do, which they only do in anime, where they like vocalize or make a noise to try and convey a feeling. Do you know that thing?
So it's slight surprise.
We could just do 4 hours of that making noises, but we won't. We'll try not to digress too badly. But there's none of that, thankfully. It's delivered fairly straight and fairly down the middle, and it's not that
all
weird.
Right, fair enough.
So it's okay. But it's worth experiencing. The story is really good fun, and it's a good wrapper to get you into these pretty distinctive missions. And as it's Ace Combat, and it's near future, it's in this world has like become obsessed with air travel and fighter plane technology. So instead of like lots of sort of developments as we've got in reality away from piloted aircraft, you have things like giant flying fortresses and ginormous flying wings and super weapons, and it's absolutely bonkers and fun.
In the trailer I saw, there was this it's like a gigantic tower thing that's been built from the ground up.
So that's a space elevator. That's a space
elevator.
Yeah. So that's
okay.
That's plausible technology. That's something that we if we put all the resources into, probably could make. To be honest,
as long as we don't have Willy Wonka at the controls, I think you'll do okay.
Oh wow, okay. I don't know my Charlie and Chocolate Factory that well, but I do remember there being an elevator in one part of it. So
you disgust me.
I'm sorry, I'm not a Roald Dahl guy. I'm more into weird Japanese fiction telling the stories of fighter pilots. What can I say?
With or without tentacles? That's the main question here.
No tentacles that I've experienced yet. And I'll keep it that way, I think.
Alright, fair enough.
So, on top of the wacky story, there's huge amounts of unlockable planes and tech, which you go through this sort of plane tree thing where you can unlock loads of stuff and dig into the specifications, which is really cool. And then there's a multiplayer offering as well, which comes in two flavors, which is Team Deathmatch, and basically they call it Battle Royale mode, right? And when I saw that, I thought,
got Battle Royale.
no, it's just the wrong name. When I saw it, I thought, yeah, last man standing, 100 planes enter. What? How's that going to work? It's not that. It's eight planes, free for all deathmatch. So they just didn't call it deathmatch. I'm not really sure why they did that. So.
Probably to jump on the bandwagon.
I think it's just a mistaken translation is the vibe I got, actually, because it's nothing like a proper Battle Royale mode at all. But they're both really good fun, and sometimes what you want to do when you're playing a game like this is just get into a dogfight, and I found it super easy to match up, get into games, never had any connectivity issues, and it's got a good host migration system in there as well, which quickly will put a new host in control if one drops out, not like huge lags or hang-ups. And to be honest, with games that come out of Japan, I've often found that networking stuff is one of their biggest weaknesses, and this works pretty damn well. So yeah, it's really good fun.
So is it quite
I'm pretty damn good at it.
Well, alright. That brags a lot. Change your call sign, mate. So is it quite easy to grasp then, or is it, because it looks very... I won't go say full aircraft simulator, but is it?
No, it's not trying to be a sim. It does enough with choice of planes and tech and different special weapons and stuff like that to make you feel very connected to the plane you end up sort of maining through the campaign. However, the way it controls is incredibly accessible. There's actually two different control methods you can pick, either simple or advanced. Basically, advanced gives you more control over things like the yaw and the sort of axis control of the plane, whereas simple just basically means it goes where you point it with the left stick. So it's you can play it in either way. When you have the advanced controls, you get more of the feeling of direct control over the nimbleness of your aircraft, so you can definitely be more effective in dogfights once you've mastered them. But I'd say play simple to start with, to get you into it, get you familiar with things a little bit, and then move up to advanced.
Okay. And you mentioned with the plane tree for like your unlocks and stuff, and like the specifications. Is that as in like you can kind of tweak the aircraft itself, or is it more for like the loadout of the plane itself?
It's both. So as you're going through the tree and unlocking stuff, you have a certain amount of slots in your plane that you can put parts into. I think there's 8 slots. And as you're unlocking stuff, you're unlocking these new parts, which can affect things like the maneuverability of the aircraft, the reliability, not so much the reliability, how much damage it can take, the range of, say, missile lock-on, things like that. So you can customize and change up your favorite aircraft to really suit your play style. Do you want to be standoffish and firing long-range missiles and then hoping that you can get in close and take the damage and then sort of repeat that, or do you want to get in close, with dogfighting, flipping about as much as you can? So you can really customize that, and then each plane has 3 different special weapons that you can choose from, and they're different based on the plane you're using. There are 3 different types of planes. So you've got kind of the ground attack bombers, which are focused on dealing damage onto enemy installations, and then you've got the sort of air interceptor, which is all about plane to plane fighting, and then you have the sort of the multi-role aircraft, which does a bit of both but doesn't specialize into either direction completely. So yeah, there's lots of choice in here, but at the end of the day, it plays really, really well. It's you can just jump into this game and immediately get on with it, and don't be put off by the number 7 at the end of the name. You do not need to have played number 6, for example, recently to have kept you up to date on the story so that you can get into 7. Yeah, you can just get straight into 7 and get on with it, and you'll be absolutely fine. It's just a super fun game to get into, actually. Have you got anything else you wanted to ask me here at the end of this? Big sigh.
So very many ideas are going through my head. Because honestly, the closest thing I can get to a decent piloting game for a long time was Hawks, and like when it came to Hawks, obviously there are certain areas. Obviously, Tom Clancy's Hawks, should I say? Certain areas obviously you can play in, and there's noticeable areas that you're flying in. You can fly around Rio de Janeiro, obviously you can see the statue of Christ on the hill, but It's just touching on the graphics again, you know, because I've seen, you know, as you get closer to the ground, you just know that the buildings are just square blocks, you know, and it's like the road layout has been printed onto the ground. But from what I've seen of gameplay, you can see a lot more that's actually built onto the ground. You can see some decent quality.
Oh yeah.
From the graphics, you know, and I know it's because it's a previous generation on the PS3 compared to what we've got now, but you know, they've done an absolute beautiful job of the environment as well. Especially like I've seen obviously like you said, the rain earlier through the clouds and everything, but like the fact that they've managed to let it actually mess up your piloting instruments in the plane itself has been a really cool change.
Yeah, so that happens if you get hit by lightning. Yeah, so that can be really intense. It actually happens on one of my favorite maps, which talks a bit about what you mentioned about awesome terrain detail, which is there's this map with these giant like rock columns, right, that come out of the earth, and you can dogfight between them in like a thunderstorm at night. And if you take a lightning blast at that point, or more importantly, if your opponent takes a lightning blast, it can be super damaging to you or him, depending on who takes the hit. So it's massively sort of evocative. And they do this thing in Ace Combat where they have really good musical scores, and they always seem to swell at just the right moment and come to a crescendo in the middle of the dogfight. You know, when you're dropping that big boss enemy or chasing that enemy ace down and stuff. And it's just, yeah, it's emotional. They bring an emotion and a feeling to dogfighting games, which can sometimes be a bit sort of acerbic and a bit severe. So they bring a real heart to it, and yeah, it just makes it super cool and compelling. Yeah, it's a real surprise hit right now, I'd say.
Yeah, and having like the radio going, and it's like, it feels very patriotic as well. Like when you get messages across, like your comrades are like, "This is for your country," you know. It's not overly westernized again, like for like too patriotic. Like Americans are just like, "Yes, do it for your country, do it for America." You know, it's not like too over the top, but. You know, it really gives like your teammates out there a bit of extra heart. It gives them a bit of extra character. You know, it's their passion for defending their country. You know, it's a really nice thing to see.
It's brilliant. I think that brings us to the end of our little review discussion here of Ace Combat 7. So what I'll say is thank you very much, Cameron, for coming and joining me for this chat.
Thank you for inviting me.
Not a problem at all. And obviously get on Twitter and follow us at Experience Kills. And while you're watching this video, please give us a like and a subscribe to the channel as well. That just helps raise our visibility and get ourselves in front of more people. And what I'll say now as well is that all of these brilliant discussions are now available on iTunes. So you can subscribe to the Experience Kills iTunes feed if you just rather listen to this on your commute instead of having to sit and watch a video. So we give you choice here at Experience Kills.
Oh yes, yes, all about that freedom of choice, baby.
Absolutely. So we'll be back very soon. There's lots of great games coming out actually as we get into late January, February and March. So we'll be back with plenty more content. So stay tuned to Experience Kills. Thanks very much, guys. Bye bye.
Bye bye.